All right, guys. The question I asked you guys to come with some answers is what every trader needs to know, but is too afraid to ask. So that's the premise of of the presentation tonight. What do you guys think every trader needs to know, but might be too afraid to ask? How would you guys answer that question?
What strategy do I have to sell my soul for?
Okay. What strategy do I have to sell myself for? I like it. You're afraid to ask that? I don't think you're afraid to ask that. I think you've asked that every day.
The closer to Sunday, the more afraid I get.
You probably
But
ask that
come
every
Monday, I
day.
have a fresh take.
Anybody? Anybody want? What do you guys think? What every trader needs to know, but is too afraid to ask. Come on. All right. So, I know it's kind of a tough question because you're too afraid to ask it. 'Cause nobody wants to ask the question. So I thought, hey, this is a pretty interesting question, right? It's a pretty interesting topic to talk about.
Can I
And
become a
so
millionaire?
what's that?
Can I become a billionaire from trading?
Can you become a billionaire from trading? Now, I don't know if that's a scary ask. I think I think everybody asks that question. Everybody's open to ask that question. How much money am I going to make? Right? I think that's like the first question everybody asks, and nobody's afraid to ask that question. So I think that so I went out I was like kind of thinking about this. What is it? I mean, like what you guys, I was thinking about it like if I was in your shoes, how would I answer that question? And I kind of went on and asked YouTube. So I went on this little journey and I'm like, how is this? If this question is out there, what does every trader need to know, but might be too scared to ask? So I went to YouTube and YouTube's answer was, are you unlucky or are you just a bad trader? Right. So, I mean, we've all been there where we just have a losing streak and we just feel like we're just losing, losing, losing. We've all been there. And YouTube answers the question like what every trader needs to know, but is too afraid to ask. Meaning, are you unlucky or are you just a bad trader? I don't think anybody is going to ask that question to themselves. Am I a bad trader? Or am I just unlucky? Right. And so that's what that was YouTube's answer to the question when I popped it in. And Charles Schwab actually had an answer as I'm just scouring the internet. Charles Schwab's answer was something that I actually thought was a legitimate question to the answer to the question is every trader needs to think long and short, right? And as you're thinking about that, what do you guys think that that means from Charles Schwab? What do you think that they're trying to say is that answering the question, whatever trader needs to know, but is too afraid to ask. What do you think that that might mean when they say think long and short? Anybody have any thoughts to that?
Long term thinking, plans, long and short term plan.
Okay. Did you
Well,
need to have a long term and you need to have a short term? I
Plan,
went with where Brandon
plan,
was going. What?
plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
plan. I kind of went with where Brandon is going. You need to be able to see both sides of the market. But as I was just saying it, I was thinking, from Charles Schwab's, you got to have a long term and a short term. And I think both fit for sure. But for me, in order to see both sides of the market, that took a really, really long time. And that took a really, really long time because as humans, we are stuck in our own bias, right? Like we want the market, we want to prove ourselves right. And if we are only thinking long, then we're only looking for longs, right? And it takes a very, very long time for the trader to start to ask themselves, is the opportunity in longs or is the opportunity in shorts, right? And it's really difficult to do that or to ask yourself for that because you're admitting subconsciously that you might be wrong in your analysis, right? And so I think that's really difficult to do. So I'm like, that was an actually interesting one. It's a little bit better than YouTube. And then LinkedIn had something that I wanted to bring to the table. LinkedIn said, am I letting my emotions influence my decision? I think that is the perfect answer to the question, whatever trader should know, but is too afraid to ask. Am I letting my emotions influence my decision? Who has actually said that to themselves? Who's actually had that conversation with themselves? Am I letting my emotions influence my decision?
Hang on, let me
Anybody?
lay down on the couch.
All right. So, Josh, how's your relationship with your inner child?
Going badly this last week. He's getting a lot of beatings.
If I could build a time machine, I'd go back and slap you.
No, just
Just
go
kidding.
back and reverse my trades. Make the buy sells and the sells buys.
If I could build a time machine, I'd go back and wouldn't let myself do that. Right? But I think that inherently is a very difficult thing to do as traders, where we don't ask those difficult questions, those emotional leading questions to ourselves. And again, in my experience, that was another difficult thing that I had to overcome, was my emotions. And emotions can range anywhere from highs, like this is awesome, I'm the best trader in the world, and your confidence is really high, to oh my goodness, the market just punched me in the mouth and now I don't know how to trade, I'm not a good trader, to everywhere in between, to revenge trading, to just killing it in the market. Trading can and trading can elicit a myriad of different emotions, and if you let it, it can run your entire day, week, month, everything, right? And unfortunately, I mean, you guys, if you guys have had a good day trading, and you get done trading, aren't you like in a happy mood and you're awesome and everything, life is great? And then if you have a bad day trading, you're just like, don't talk to me, right? Who
Yeah,
is that?
yeah, me.
Yeah, me. Right? I think we've all been there. We've all struggled through that, right? Those emotional influences impact my decision. I don't know how many times I've heard from traders that if I'm having a bad day, I shouldn't be trading. And I know that about myself and I shouldn't be trading. And so maybe outside influences are affecting your trading decisions, right? Um, Lee says, I want to know how much money I have to lose before I start making money. That's a good question too. And so Brandon asked the question that if you had a mechanical, to me, when I was trading with Apiary, I had a mechanical cutoff at 5%. Today, I have the ability to use EAs, which he uses sometimes. How did you progress psychologically from meeting a mechanical cutoff to psychologically being able to effectively cut off rather than saying it's got to turn at the next one? What is the factor or decision that changed your psyche to no longer needing that? That's a great question, right? That's a great question. And I think that it didn't come until I did away with that 5% cutoff, because honestly, I leaned into that too much as a crutch. I leaned into that too much as a crutch, meaning that if I was like at 3%, I would have a tendency to be like, well, I'm already at 3%. What's another 2%? I'm gonna either fix it or lose it. And that was the worst thought process that you could ever have. I'm either gonna lose 5% or I'm gonna fix 3%, right? So I'm gonna go all in. And it wasn't until I got away from that 5% risk and I had a couple bad losses that I'm like, oh, nobody's stopping me. Nobody's stopping me. Why aren't you stopping me? Right? And I had to lose. And for me, luckily, in my trading, Brandon, it wasn't about taking a huge loss. For me, it was, I think the worst loss that I took was not in money, but it was in time. I lost 6 months of work in a matter of 2 days. And to me, that was a catastrophic failure for me that I had to go through to really reevaluate and say never again, right? Never again am I gonna do that. And the thing that you kind of saw today in our live trading class with Khaled, when I had to leave, I left him, he was down, he was in a losing position, but we fixed it to the point where he was only down 0.35 and only had 7 trades on. And to me, it was that pivotal moment in my trading when I realized that I didn't have to get it all back to be successful. I just had to we had to cut it from, 1.5 down to a manageable thing. And if I could get it just to be manageable, then I could manage myself out of that. But whenever I felt like I am in a trading situation where I'm in what we call in our community a hope and pray trade, and I don't have any options left on the table, and I'm panicking and I'm sweating and I hate trading in those situations, why am I putting myself into those situations? Right? Why am I in those situations? And I was more nervous in today's trading session for Khaled than he was, because I'm like, why are you doing this? Why are you adding 2 trades? Why are you adding when you should only be doing this and you should only be doing that? And I kept going back to that because it was like I was trading and I was seeing that we were backing ourselves into a wall, right? And it wasn't until I actually had that conversation with myself that I'm not going to allow that to happen again, where I need to just cut my trades, get myself into a manageable situation that I am in control. And one of the things that we used to talk about quite often, again, with this emotional stuff, is the power. Who has the power? Does the market have the power over your trades, or do you have the power over your trades? And if the market has the power over your trades, then how are you gonna take the power back? And even though you didn't see a victory in our session, when I left, Khaled had the power back in his hands, right? When I left and I had to go and I had to leave, Khaled had the power back in his hands, and you heard it here. He had his goal and he was one thing away from goal, but he would not have had his goal. I'm pretty confident, Haled, that if you did not cut those trades, you would not have been able to get yourself into that situation with of getting back to goal. Do you understand what I'm saying? Does,
Yeah.
does, does that help you, Brandon? Right. And I will say you have a difficult doing that. And that's okay. It's not that it's not that it's okay that you're having a difficult time doing that. I'm just happy that you're recognizing it, right? Because if you don't recognize it, you can't fix it, right? Um, and and most people don't recognize it, and so that is exactly why I'm doing this presentation tonight, is so that you can start to have those difficult conversations with yourself. What am I doing that is impacting or that's keeping me from the results that I want? And also you got to kind of marry that with the market's just going to get you sometimes. But if the market is getting you more than you're winning, then it's not the market. It's probably like what you just said. It's the integrity to following your own rules and honoring that, and then recognizing that when you do, you give yourself more options and more power over the market, right? And so I'm really happy, Brandon, that you asked that question, because you're conscious, because you're thinking about it and you're consciously making the decision to figure out how to fix it. So thank you for asking that question for sure. Um, and I'm just reading Alfred's question. Alfred says that you had to sit on the sidelines when the market finally did what you expected, and I would have been stopped out and missed the big moves, right? Yeah, kind of going back to the conversation that we were just having, right? Like if you used to be that way. right? And it's great to have a short memory. Honestly, I mean, I can tell you guys this, that if you're making a conscious decision to ask these questions to yourself, you will get to the point where you don't remember the last time that you had a big loss. You will remember you had a big loss, and you will remember that it sucked, and you'll probably remember the amount, but you won't remember when it happened, right? And for me, the last time I had a big loss or a risked out was, to me, it happened. I risked out was a 5% loss, so I don't really consider that a big loss, but I lost a prop firm company in early December or late December, and I knew I shouldn't have been traded because it was holiday trading. But that to me wasn't a big loss because I just bought it again and passed the challenge. It was in the challenge phase. But that to me is still a loss, and I lost it, and I hate losing. Just like I'm human, everybody hates losing. But literally the last time I had a big loss was about a year ago this time, where I took like a huge loss and it took me a couple weeks to recover from, right? And I don't, like I said, I don't remember the last time, like I don't remember the day it happened. And if you're still in that day that it happened, then you got to start asking these questions, these hard questions to yourself, right? And I love this list that I'm getting. I'm gonna just jump back over here, right? And I think the Eagle, you said it, you hit the nail right on the head, is you got to have the resolve to cut the trade, right? Maybe not at a predetermined level, but that's where you need to start. You need to cut the trade when the market tells you you should cut the trade, right? When the market says we've crossed the KPI, when the market says this level has now been crossed, you need to cut the trade. You need to cut the trade. And that's kind of what we tried to do again with Haled was I don't want to go over this threshold. And we went over that threshold and said, now it's not about winning. It's about getting back to what we can manage. Right. And we said that before. It's you first trade to hit your goal, then you trade for break even, then you trade to keep to have a good week, right? To keep your account. And those are your three goals that you have. And if you're trading in one day that's going to wreck your week, then you're got to make those adjustments. And every single person has a different issue, but a lot of you guys might have the same issue, right? There's not like an infinite amount of issues in trading. It's about recognizing it, learning how to overcome it, and then moving on from it. So let's keep going here. So Reddit said, and to answer the question, or as you reset the question, is what does every trader need to know but is too afraid to ask? Or Reddit says, is there any kind of system out there that can make me big money with little work? That's the answer to Reddit. And I don't know if I put this in there, but it was kind of interesting. Reddit said that 50% of the systems out there are being sold by snake oil salesmen, and the other 50% that actually work require the trader to be disciplined. And I thought it was kind of funny. So you're kind of hosed either way. You don't know if you're buying a charlatan system or if you have to be disciplined in order to make it work, right? So I thought that was kind of funny, right? Um, and let's see. And then Chat GPT says, how do you effectively manage risk and handle losses? Right? So I thought that was really interesting. I asked ChatGPT is like, how would you answer this question? What does every trader need to know, but is too afraid to ask? And that is, how do you effectively manage risk and handle losses? And I think you guys just asked that question, right? Or I think Brandon just asked that question. So this is kind of interesting. I kind of scoured the internet a little bit and I said, okay, what is what are some of the answers, or what are some of the, how would you answer this question? Anybody else have a thought out there before I kind of turn the page to what I think the questions should be and the answer should be? Of anybody else have any questions before I turn the page? Alfred says, one of the main things I've learned from our sessions is knowing exactly where the KPI and honoring that level. Absolutely. Optimus Prime time. I love that. Yes, Eagle, I don't think you should living on the edge. All right. So as I was thinking about this, for the past couple days and how my presentation and how I would answer it, well, I kind of said that there's not just one answer. And again, every trader in their journey is going to be at different levels in your journey. And I don't believe that there's one answer, but there is a place where you can start to where you can start to ask that of yourself, or different questions. And so I kind of narrowed it down into 5 different questions that, depending on where you're at in your trading journey, might be relevant to you. And it's not just one, it's just not just one answer that every trader needs to ask themselves, but there might be a handful of questions. And here's the top 5 right here. Is how much risk is too much? I don't think traders ask that question. And if they do, then they're not listening to the answers. What is your exit strategy? I don't think traders ask that question. What is my exit strategy? And if the answer is I exit when it hits my take profit, that is the wrong answer, right? How do I deal with a losing streak? Again, I don't think traders ask that question because they don't want people to know that they are having a losing streak. So they keep it inside and they bottle it up. And I don't think that question ever gets asked because we are afraid that people will judge us and say, well, you're a bad trader if you have a losing streak. And so we don't ever advertise that to people. We often always say, look how good of a day I had. This is a great day. But we don't ever show our vulnerabilities and say, how do I deal with the losing streak? The fourth one that traders need to ask themselves, am I really cut out for this? Right. And I think that, I don't think you guys are here today asking that question, but there are definitely some people that, why are you doing this? Is it for the money, or is it for the opportunities? Or like, why are you doing this? What is your why? And I don't think people really answer that question. And if it's purely just for motivate, or if it's money driven, you won't be successful. And so you really got to ask yourself, what is my why? Why am I doing this? Right. And then the last one is where sometimes, like, this is one that how do I keep learning and growing? Like, how do I keep growing once I achieve a state where I'm consistent and profitable? How do I keep learning and growing? And so I really do think that these 5 things need to be asked to yourself at some point during your trading journey. And maybe you're asking them all 5 of them right now. But I really think that these are the top 5 questions that every trader should know, but might be too afraid to ask. And so we're going to kind of go through each one and kind of present to you guys what my thoughts are. Is there anything here that you would add? Just out of curiosity, is there anything that here you would add, or do you agree, or kind of your thoughts on that really quick? And I'm trying to watch the time so I don't go over, because I have a tendency. I wasn't going to use that word, but I have a tendency to go over on time. So I'm going to make sure I'm watching my clock here. Anybody else have any thoughts, comments, questions before we jump in, and anything they'd like to add that I might be missing? Exactly, Eagle. All right. Am I Brandon, I love the fact that you're using the integrity as the word, because I think that you're big on that word, but I also don't want you to be so hung up on that if you don't do it, then you're not having integrity, right? Because I think that that for you is a very personal word, and it is for some people. And I don't know if it's basically integrity is the right word, but I would say that once you recognize that taking a loss is actually helping you to become a better trader, that I don't think that that has anything to do with the word integrity, but it has everything to do with knowing when and how to take that loss. And then when you realize, oh, by taking losses, I'm actually making more money, then that's when that shift actually happens. So you say, you say I'm torn on this. As an example, I cut it when it's negative 0.6. When it passed the KPI, it went up a pip past my stop loss, which was below the KPI, and it turned it at 100% retracement. I wasn't in enough to make more than 0.20 on the way up due to wonky price action. Okay. I resolved not to trust instinct, and instinct ate my lunch. And that instinct ate my lunch today. Um, so you're going, if in my opinion, you're going through a tough stretch, right? And again, I'm going to tell you, Brandon, and everybody else that asked me, how do I never take a loss? And if you never want to take a loss anymore, you just got to stop trading. But you are going through what I just talked about, where your confidence is a little shattered, you're getting beat up. You're like, how do I do this? And how do I overcome this? And the thing that I will tell you is kind of, well, hmm, the thing that I'll tell you, Brandon, is schedule a hot seat session. Let's work through it together. That's the best advice that I can give you as your mentor, is let's jump in a hot seat and let's work through it together. And you can ask me all the questions. But barring that situation, or until we can get to that point where you and I can trade together personally, the thing that I will give you is that you should learn how to stack. You should take what the market gives you and be okay with that. Meaning, I'm trying to not to just give you the what I call like a Sunday school answer, right? The easy, basic, elementary answer. What I'm trying to say is, when price goes in your favor, secure that. And if it comes back and knocks you out, well, you're out for profit. You cannot lose if you secure it tightly, right? And then massage that secure point to where you're aligning that with action points. But first and foremost, if you're into trades, take them. Try not to get out. We're talking what we talk about. Try not to get out of early game, because if the market goes against you and you're still in early game, you can fix that. But it's when I'm going to probably correct me if I'm wrong, but most of the time when we get ourselves in trouble, it's because of one word, and that is impatience, where we don't take where we don't set a take profit, or we don't secure our trades, where we just want it to run too much, or we get in too quick. And I can't really answer that for you, Brandon, specifically, but I'm trying to answer that as a whole until we actually do trading. But I will say this for you, Brandon, because I'm helping you out. Send me a couple screenshots of your trades, and let me look at them until we can get you in a hot seat, right? And really go through it together. So show me some of your trades. And patience and being pig-headed. That's what somebody else has, right? So Send me some of your trades and I'll read and let's look and let's just go through them, right? Let's look at them and I'll give you analysis on some things that I think you can do to fix your trading, right? Okay. So moving forward, how do I keep learning and growing? All of these 5 things, in my mind, is what every trader should be asking themselves, but might be too afraid to ask themselves for the answers, right? Or maybe not even know that that's a question that they should be asking. So, how much risk is too much risk? And I will say this, it's not about how much you make, but it's about how much you keep. And if you are finding yourself in trading that you're risking out or you're losing more than you want to lose, then you're risking too much. That's the easiest answer. If you feel like at the end of the day, your trading session was a punch in the gut, you are risking too much in the market. My easy answer is to know market structure, to understand like today's market, you needed to be extremely, extremely light in today's market. And, and then jump in when you see high probability trade setup. Now we traded for 2 hours today or 3 hours. I don't know how long we traded for. And there was not one time that it showed a high probability setup. Not once. Right? And so the whole time there was never an opportunity to jump in until we did that last move in our trading session. So go back and watch it. But that last move before I left, I said, get in right here. Let's get in pretty heavy. Take that little bit of profit off the table and close out of your trades. And we did that and it fixed a lot, right? It fixed a lot of his trades. That was the only time in 3 hours that opportunity came. And so if you're risking too much, or if you're getting gut punched at the end of your session, you're risking too much. You can't control your risk, right? And that's the first thing that you need to do is recognize if I can't control my losses, then I need to reduce my risk, right? And in reducing your risk is either reducing your trade quantity or your position size. And those are the 2 things that you can do in order to help manage your risk, right? And it is way okay. And you need to know this as a trader that it is okay to, for a little bit, when the market is not something that you're used to, not something that you're recognizing, we're not in flow with the market. It is okay to either A, don't trade, or B, trade light and make a little. That is perfectly okay. When you're in foreign territory and I'm not used to this, and that's what we've had the past couple weeks where market has been really slow, right? And if you're not used to that, then you need to take a step back and say, it's okay to not hit my goal, or it's okay to just be green, right? And be okay with that. All right. What's my exit strategy? This one, we can have a whole long conversation because this honestly is the hardest and most difficult thing for any trader to accomplish is their exits. And if your exits, like I said, is just your take profit, you have the wrong exit strategy because there's an exit strategy for everything. Develop exit strategies for both when you're winning and when you're losing. And if you're winning, I'm gonna pick on you for just 1 second. If you're winning and you're almost to your goal and you end up risking out, well, you didn't have a really good exit strategy in place, meaning that if I'm winning, I'm always securing. If I'm winning, I'm always securing. If I have a lot of trades on, I do not let those trades risk. I'm reducing my risk by securing them so that they will never put me in a losing situation. Right? If I'm winning, I'm securing. If I'm losing, I'm pilling. If I'm losing, I'm managing my trades to reduce my exposure. Reducing my exposure reduces my risk. I'm waiting for the opportunity for the market to get me into a high probability setup where I can add trades to reduce my risk. Again, these are easier said than done moments, but are things that you need to understand. You need to have an exit strategy for when you're winning. How am I going to keep my wins? And when you're losing, how am I going to mitigate my losses? Right? So what is my exit strategy? And again, if hitting your take profit is your exit strategy, that is not a good exit strategy if you don't know where your max profit is for that trade, right? All right. So how do I deal with a losing streak? We've all been there. We all have them. How do we deal with the losing streak when we're just getting beat up, and beat up? How do we deal with the losing streak? The key here is honestly is resilience and a solid review process, and exactly what I just said with Brandon. Brandon, if you're feeling like you get beat up, send me your trades. Let somebody else take a look at them. Have the instant feedback loop at the end of your trading session by either saying, what did I do wrong? Or what could I have done better at? And make sure that you're getting that instant feedback from your trades, because if you are in a losing streak and your confidence is shaken, you need that feedback from a different perspective, right? And that is where having a mentor is awesome, because or just somebody else can look at that and say, hey, have you ever thought about this, and giving you a perspective, because sometimes when you're going through what I call the suck, when you're going through the suck, you can't see what somebody else can see, because you are too emotionally connected to that you need help. You need to take a step back. You need to say, hey, what am I doing wrong here? And that is the hardest thing to do as a human, is to accept that you might be doing something wrong. But it's the thing that you have to do as a trader if you want to get better. It is the only thing that you can do as a trader to get better, right? And that is the best thing to do when you're on a losing streak, is to post in the community, hey guys, I'm getting kind of beat up here. Here's my last trading session. Anybody have any thoughts? Right? And then this is almost equally as important. You're going to get blasted with a difference of opinions. Accept the ones that make sense to you and reject mentally, don't. Right? If it doesn't make sense to you, it doesn't make sense to you. Why keep it? So keep what is good and eliminate the rest. I'm going to pick on Josh Hunter if he's here, because he is a really, really, really good example of this, because he is a student and has been a student of trading for a very long time, and he has basically picked good things that he's learned from various different mentors that he's had in his life, and he's created his own system. Now, is it 100%? No, nothing is, but he's kept what works for him and eliminated the rest, right? And he's continuing to learn as well, and that's what you have to do when you're on a losing streak, is ask, what is it that I'm doing wrong? Help me out, and eliminate all the opinions that don't resonate, right, with you. The next thing, am I really cut out for this? I'm sure we've all been there where we've gotten beat up so bad, we were on that losing streak, and you're just like, wow, am I ever going to get this? Is trading really for me? The biggest thing that I would say to ask yourself when you feel this dejected and this down, is that trading is not a skill set, it's a mindset. If you can keep a cool head, ask yourself, do I really enjoy the process? Do I love the analysis? Do I like the thrill of the trade? If yes, you're more than halfway there. If you started trading and you're like, I really hate this, it's not for me, I'm only doing it for the money, you'll never be successful at it. You have to trade and enjoy the process. the process is not, even on the losing days, you still have, it's going to suck. I'm just saying, do the losing days want to tear you away from trading, or do they want to make you a better trader? Right. And that's something that only you can answer for yourself. But that's what I call going through the suck. And you're going to go through the suck at some point in your trading career. But I can promise you this, if you have the resolve, if you have the resiliency to power through the suck and get to the other side, it's awesome. But not everybody is cut out to get to the other side, right? And um that's something that's a really, really tough question to ask yourself that, but it's something that every trader might be afraid to ask, right? It's just that is, right? Power through the suck and become a better trader, right? Um, I'm sorry, I'm looking at your chats now. I guess there was a conversation about consistently profitable. I think that is, I think that is, I think that's consistently profitable is really, and how long it takes is really how much you're going to put into it, right? I honestly, I would have aligned with Josh. You say, it takes, 8 to 10 years, 5+ years. I would have said that, a couple of years ago, that I had the opportunity to ask a lot of traders how long it took them to be successful, or being able, I started changing the question when I was asking a lot of traders that I was around. Like, I would stop saying the word successful, and I would start saying, how long did it really take before you knew that all you needed was a computer and an internet connection and you could make money, right? Because that's what I wanted to know. I didn't want to be vague and say how long until you were successful. And what do you guys think that the common answer was from that question? What do you guys think the common answer was from that question when I started asking all these gurus, my mentors, how long did it take before you knew all you needed was an internet connection and and you could make money, right? Um, so Pete, it was not 4 hours. Just kidding. I know you're just messing with me.
4 hours later.
4 hours later. The answer was about 3 to 5 years. From all of my mentors, about 3 to 5 years. And then I backed that up with another question. Well, how long were you doing that every single day? And most of them were saying 1 to 2 hours a day, right? 1 to 2 hours a day is what they would say. And so yes, I would agree with that. And I start putting that in. I would agree with that. If you're only putting in 1 to 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, it's going to take you 3 to 5 years to get there. But we do that every single day and then some. And none of them, they all said none of them had what traders have now, where they have a mentor, a system. The people that I was talking to had to figure it out because internet trading wasn't a thing in the 90s, right? So it still is relatively new. Trading with, MT4, MT5 is relatively new in the grand scheme of things, right? So you don't have like 20-year-old vets or whatever, or I guess you do, but it's very rare, right? Because it hasn't been around that long. So, I don't honestly know the answer to that question for our group, right? But I do know that, or I do feel that having a mentor, having trading every day, watching the market, live and breathe the market, it's going to take more than a year, but maybe less than 5. And the reason why I say it's going to take more than a year is because you have to trade through the seasons. And you have to get to a point where like, oh yeah, I remember the summertime trading. Oh yeah, I remember the springtime trading. Oh, I've seen this market before. Oh, I can recognize this type of market. And you have to get to that level, right? And I'm not saying that you can't make money, but you won't be consistently making money or quitting your job or anything like that, in my opinion, in less than a year of trading. I just don't think that that's realistic expectation, right? It's kind of like it's that whole thing that says garbage in, garbage out. What you put into it is what you're going to get out of it, right? Alfred says, I was gonna read Josh's, but Josh is you're making a joke. Alfred says, I could have gotten there in a year with this group, maybe 2 if I was lazy. I like that. Josh says, trading every day. I was able to do it full time at 2 years, but I have yeah, and I would agree with that too, right? But and you know, your income needs to be greater than your expenses for sure if you're going to do it full time, right? Um, Again, putting a little plug in for, I don't know if you guys were here in the very, very beginning, but I think if I was in your guys' shoes, this is the way that I'm presenting, or in my mind, coming up with a game plan, and not how to replace your day job, not how to replace your income, but taking a brand new trader and putting money in their pocket. To me, that would have been huge if I could have started making, you know, um, payouts, not like full-time income, but if I could have made like 500 bucks, $1,000 or whatever, out of trading and started having consistency in checks coming in, that goes a long way too. And I realized not a lot of people are able to do that in the beginning of their trading, right? We lose way more than we spend. And I'm trying to change that. And I think I finally have grabbed onto something that I'm going to present next week that I think you guys are going to really, really love. So again, just kind of putting a plug in for that, right? All right. Um, Eagle, like 500 a month would be fantastic. I'll take 50. But it's about getting those. I'll tell you my story. My first check that I ever got from trading, um, was like $6.97. And framed it. I framed it because that was the first money that I ever made trading. And I knew it wasn't going to be the last, but it was a major, major, major accomplishment because of all the work and effort I put in to actually trading. And it was, with Apiary, so it was trading their money, right? It wasn't my own money. That was the first check I ever got, right? It was more about the accomplishment than it was about the dollar amount. So I don't even think I cashed it, honestly. I just framed it, right? And to me, that was about the accomplishment. It's like the first dollar that you make when you open up a new business. All right. So am I really cut out for this? And then the last question is, how do I keep learning and growing? Right? How do I keep learning and growing? And I don't know if some of the I was thinking about this and I don't know, and so I'm going to ask this. Do Pete, particularly Pete and Josh and some of the older hot seat guys that I've been working with, do you um do you ever ask this question, right? Do you ever ask this question to yourself, how do I keep learning and growing? Because I'm wondering if you guys are getting to the point in your trading career where you're like, I know what all the right answers is. Now it's just about application, right? I know the ABCs. I know my ABCs. I know how to read. I know how to write. Now it's just about application, right? I'm just curious, like for some of you seasoned guys out there.
Well, that's kind of a hard answer. I don't know that it's application, especially with your style. It's self-control. The psychology battle is still real for me. So I'll take a loss from stupid psychology decisions I should have or shouldn't have made. But I'm at a point now where the knowledge I've learned from you, from Rex, from Sean, from Nate, from Kevin, from God, all these people that have tried to help me over the years, I'm actually creating strategies. Like I've been creating a strategy for the last 2 months. It's actually turning out really well. But it's like you said before, I can't trade like you any more than I can
Right.
trade like Sean or Diane or anybody else.
Right. Because
But
you're you.
yeah, I see the market my way. I
Right.
think my way. When we're all our own individual selves, our own individual traders. But exposing myself to, wow. I
That's
don't have a better word for it, but exposing
Ruh-roh.
myself to you and all these other traders and the knowledge that y'all have, I could steal the pieces that resonated,
right.
like you said.
Yeah.
And I got enough of those resonances to make it work. But that takes a
So
long time.
how do you personally keep learning and growing? Right? Because I think you're at your, like, for me, I'd be like, there's nothing out there there's not a market out there that I can see that doesn't um that I haven't seen before. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I haven't recognized. I'm like, oh, okay, so you're doing this,
I mean, some
right?
of them are kind of nice. Like they'll just have this nice trend up. Like if you follow spiders or you follow, something on the New York Stock Exchange, Forex is crazy, period. And gold is just insane. But yeah, you're just like, oh, I've seen this before. I'm not doing this. I'm out. Or, oh, I've seen this. I need to counter. Or, yeah, you've got
Yeah.
tools at a certain point where you're looking and you're like, oh, wait a minute. I need to switch or I need to use this tool.
What about you, Pete? I appreciate that, Josh. Thank you for sharing. Any thoughts that you'd have on that, Pete?
Well, when I exposed myself to Josh's
Logan's not here, is he?
Josh's style of trading. um, I think the next evolution in the trading, once you um, understand everything, but you haven't mastered it, is
Mhm.
to knock off the rough edges of your weaknesses. So, and I've said this after I go through a couple of days of losing streaks, I start to really hammer down to what the big Achilles heel is for my trading or the scalping. And so then you start to think of, okay, now that I understand, how do I control the biggest Achilles heel here is how do we control our loss? And then Dave, you commented that if you jump on YouTube and something catches your eye, somebody's strategy, and you
Mhm.
open up their strategy, and you're like, oh yeah, that I know everything you're saying. You're just doing uh, LMNO. You're doing those letters differently, but I know everything else you're talking about.
Right.
So as Josh talked about manipulating what works for him. So let's say, for example, after a couple months here, if you've been with us for a couple years or throughout 2023, 2024, and you're still struggling, it might be something as simple as just going up in time frames. Maybe there's something about how you read the market on the 1 minute, 5 minute. Maybe you just have to, and that becomes your adjustment. So I think the 3 and 50 has taught us so much of the missing pieces that we never knew about. And so, Josh commented that, Dave, you may thrive on the 5 minute, 1 minute seeing market structure, but that might not be somebody else in the group. And so they've got to figure out what is it that's not working for them. So I think that's the next level where us OG hot seaters is uh, if we're not if we're not able to do something correctly in the strategy, then you really have to hone in on that and figure out a way how to get that to not be a weakness of yours.
Yeah. Well said. Thank you both for sharing. I really appreciate that. And this was kind of like, and thinking of this question is like, this is the one that I'm kind of at. Like, I teach you guys every single day. I'm on there. I talk all day, a lot. And I'm like, how do I keep learning and growing? So I was
All
asking,
day.
I know. I asked myself that question, right? Like, how do I keep learning and growing? And it's a little different from in the role that I'm in, but I still, as I was thinking of this, I stopped and asked myself that question, right? And it's not something that I've done until this presentation. And it was like, you know what? I'm learning and growing by trying to create a community that's going to help you guys become better traders. And that's what I'm continuing, and that's how I am continuing to learn and grow. And it was really, really proven evident today when I was talking to the owner of Darwin of how much I really enjoy being in this position to help you guys earn and learn. And super excited with the conversation and the trajectory of where we're going and all that kind of stuff. So again, just kind of and that kind of resonated with me is like that's how I'm learning and growing is if I can help you guys achieve just a small thing of whatever it is that you want, I then I've done my, I've that to me is the definition of success. I don't know if I've shared that with you or not, but my definition of success is not how big my bank account is, but it's how many lives that I can impact and for the positivity, right? And that's what I think is success for me. So and I get the opportunity to do that. And so I was thinking about that. That's how I can continue to learn and grow is to build a model that will help you guys learn and grow. And I think I don't remember what I put here, but I think I said for you guys, how you guys keep learning and growing is to set specific learning goals and practice. And I said that over and over and over. Practice for practice. And just kind of echoing, maybe going back to what uh, Pete was saying, is that if you recognize that you're not good at a certain aspect, practice it. And I can't say that enough because we don't practice. We only trade. And there is a complete difference between practicing and trading. And it's okay if you're struggling with something to not trade in your live account, jump and trade in a practice account and practice that and practice it and practice it and practice, right? It's just like, and to me, using that sports analogy, and it's basketball season, they put in way more practice than they ever do playing a game. But as traders, it's the opposite for some reason. We don't practice to practice. We don't just sit at the line and shoot free throws 200 times until we get it down. No, we just jump in and want to play the game. And we try and we say, well, we're playing the game, so therefore we're practicing. No, you will not get better unless you practice what you're weak at, right? And you have to practice what you're weak at. And if you don't know what you're weak at, because because you can't see the forest through the trees, right? Because you're too close to it, because you're too emotionally connected and you're too upset, that's when you need a community or a mentor to be like, okay, you need to work on ... right? Because sometimes we can't see that because we're too close to the situation. Anyways, we're over on our time. Hopefully you guys received some knowledge today, hopefully.
Hey, David, there's another piece of that learning part. I stay like even with as much that I know, I stay in this group and I stay in Rex's and I stay in these other groups because at some point the market changes and the strategies change and the applications of the strategies change. And you can only really keep on top of that education real time by, and the communities make a great spot for that. They really do. Like even you yourself, you've adjusted your strategy 2 or 3 times over the course of the last year to adjust for market behavior, seasonal behavior, all sorts of things. So staying in touch, don't ever think you've got it figured out and then leave, because you'll become what's the word? Outdated real quick.
Yeah.
Stay involved. By staying
Yeah,
involved, you
you
can
have
stay
to
on
have
top of that
Dave
education.
expose. Yeah.
No, no,
Stay
no,
exposed
no.
to Dave.
Dave's like,
Connected.
no, we're not doing that. Connected, yeah.
Connected is a better word. Yeah, connected is a better word. And you know it, and I will say that sometimes the market goes through behavioral changes. And that's why I'm going back to the point. Like if you guys are struggling right now, it's probably it is because the market has been weird the past couple weeks. It has been tough the past couple weeks. It really has. But guess what? If you adapt, like what Josh was just saying, and you can stay in these groups and figure out what is it that, we figure it out and we start getting back to, as a group, we figure out, okay, how to trade this market. Well, guess what? The next time you're in this type of a market, you'll know exactly what to do. Right. And that's why I'm saying you have to go through these iterations of seeing the challenges that the market offers. And I'm going to say right now, with the way that the market has been, it hasn't been easy. It's been tough. But if you can figure out how to trade these type of markets, then the easy ones become even easier. Right. So, and I remember the only thing, like, if you were with us in September or October, similar markets, very, very, very similar markets. It was really tough to trade those type of markets, right? And we're going to see another shift here in another month or so. And again, going back to Josh's point, if you're in a community of traders, it's better it's going to help you recognize and go through it as a group than trying to figure it out on your own. It's just going to be that much easier. So,
Ooh, and ask them the things that they tried, because like you did your thing, somebody else tried something else, it failed. Somebody else tried something else and it failed, and you don't have to go through all that pain if you just listen to each other.
yeah, exactly. And lean on each other and be okay to be like, hi, I'm Nick and I'm a struggling trader. Hi, Nick. We
I
have
screwed
support.
up. Oh, how did you screw up?
There's support groups for that.
But somebody made money in it. And then you find that person, and you're like, okay, what did you do?
What did you do? I love it. Anyways, any last thoughts or comments before we kind of close up shop and hit the bed? But that's all that my presentation is today, is like all these 5 questions that I put out there right here. Ask yourself, which one are you at and where are you at? Which question resonates to you in your trading today? Right? And start to have these internal questions with yourself and figure out what is it that I need in order to get to the next level, right? Is it community? Is it mental fortitude? Is it reducing my risk? I almost said exposure. Is it I need to figure out and be humble and learn and keep learning, right? For Pete's sake, he needs to be humble and start and keep learning. But anyways, with that, I think we'll wrap up. But I appreciate you guys. I thank you guys for being here. Again, really, really excited to kind of showcase to you guys what we have. So next week, next Wednesday, I'm putting together a presentation for something that how we're all going to take this journey together. So thank you guys, and we will see you in the morning. So thanks, guys.
Always
Mm.
good,
Thank you,
Dan.
feller.
Thanks,
See you
Ian.
later. See you in the morning.